Alright, good afternoon. Round two here. I had some technical difficulties with the first video, but let's get this underway. So this video is being sent to you because we're dealing with some anterior hip dysfunction and some lateral hip stability, creating some lower back pain throughout your day. So this is going to be a routine that's going to help to alleviate that. So this is going to be the beginning techniques. If we progress within the next 2 weeks and we make the decision to change some things up, I'll let you know. Also, use this as an opportunity to view this, troubleshoot. If you have any questions, email me back or just bring them to the table when you get here for your next visit. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and show you what we're going to work on. So first thing we're going to do is a couple compression flosses with a ball. So tennis ball with a cross ball to your talons. We're going to hit 2 points up. So first is going to be a much larger one. It's going to be the front line, hip flexor line of the body. You're going to go at about a 45-degree angle into your abdomen, below your ribs, and you're going to provide some compression and roll down and across and look for points of tension. So I got one right there. I'm going to go further down just to show you that there's this line's pretty large. So down near the hip bone, as you travel further down, those are probably going to be another area where you might find a couple. So repetitions and how much you should do this all is going to be explained on the email. So I'm just going to go into showing you what to do. So from here, I'm going to hit this point. I'm going to get down the floor, and I'm going to provide compression. And I'm going to do two things as I'm compressing in the area of tension. So I'm going to create some hip rotation with the leg, of course, that I'm compressing on. So rotating my hip back and forth, and then as well, even better, extending the hip when I get to an area of tension. And you're just going to repeat this for a reasonable amount of time. I'll explain it in the email. And then you're going to work on another point. So hit that for the prescribed amount of time, then find another point, and then switch to the other leg and do the same. The second point, side here on the glute. So you're going to look for kind of that bony ridge on your hip. You're going to go below that or behind that and a little bit south of that. And you're going to start looking for some points here. It's a little bit easier to kind of search when you're on the ball itself. So getting down, putting some compression down, you'll probably hit one pretty quickly. I just hit one right there. So I'm pressing down and in, and from there what I'm doing is I'm very similar to the treatment we were doing. I'm going to flex my hip upwards, and I can also create internal and external rotation on this hip. Ooh, that's spicy. And once again, you're going to just spend a certain amount of time on this, and then you can look for another point, and then you're going to switch. So try to find 2 to 3 points, work on those for the prescribed amount of time. So from there, let's go into some of the exercises. This first one you've already done, a one-legged bridge. I'm just going to demonstrate it again. So what you're going to do on your back, providing some slight tension into the abdomen. So you want to create some core contraction. You're going to put your leg in a bridge position. Foot's going to be rotated slightly outwards. Let me crawl up a little bit more. So foot's going to be slightly rotated, and then we're going to do a glute engagement and hold for 5 seconds. This one's a fairly easy exercise, but we're going to repeat it a lot, so you might get tired after about half the time you're doing it. And you notice I'm just doing a very mild glute engagement. If you want, you could actually cup into the glute so you could feel the activation and then relax. So we're going to do a number of those. 5-second holds, prescribed amount of time should be on the email. The next one we're going to do, we went over these before you left. You're going to go into a true kneeling and a true lunge position. So let me describe this again. I like to put my heels under, or my toes under my heels, and from there what I'm going to do is try to find the area where I'm hitting a true kneeling position. Now, to do that, once again, focus on that belt line, making sure that that's even. If it's not, you're not going to probably feel this. So I'm going to engage my glutes to, if you notice my pelvis rotated, and I'm in a straighter position. And then from there, I'm going to move my shoulders until I feel straight. And right there, I hit the sweet spot where my posterior line engages. My glutes are really firing hard right now. And then my front and anterior hips are feeling like a stretch feeling. So I can hold there. Some challenges while you're in this position. You want to do this until you start feeling fatigued and shaky. But in addition, while you're hanging out, you can rotate the head. You're going to find one side's probably a little wobblier than the other. That's the side to probably focus on a little more. And you can also look up and down. And combining those, you can look up and down while your head is turned as well. So there's the true kneeling. So then, now we're going to true lunge. I'll show you backside leg is going to be the one that we're most concerned with. So with this one, same thing goes, but we have this anterior leg providing a little more stability. We're going to try to keep those legs lined in line with the hips, body in line with the hips. And once again, we're going to try to make that belt line even and hold there. And boy, if you do this right, you're really going to feel that front chain fire up pretty quickly. And just hold there. Once again, there's some challenge. You could go through those head motions similar to the other, or raise the arms up with this one and perform some trunk rotations, trying to hold that position, really firing up that posterior and anterior chain together. Okay, next thing we're going to go over are regressions. So these can be performed in a couple ways, depending on what you have available for you. There's not really a preferred, but you just got to find the one that works best for you. So I'm going to show you the kneeling one. We went over this a little bit, but I'm just going to show you it again. You're going to want to get a cue, like a broomstick or a PVC pipe, something that you can place on the very low end of the back, between the shoulder blades and on the back of the head. All three of those points should touch. What we're going to do is try to drive the hip body down, the trunk down to parallel. I'm engaging my core. I'm allowing my hips to sink back and rotate inwards slightly. Once I get to the point where I feel a maximum challenge, I'm going to really focus on driving up through the hamstrings and the glutes to push my body back upwards. So once again, down, and then push it. Okay, so there's that. The other form of this, if you have the availability, you can perform this with a box or a chair. And if you have a kettlebell, that's going to be the most ideal way to do this. So what you're going to do, very similar, you're going to engage those lats and keep the kettlebell very centered and drop it through the knee line. And what you're going to do is pretty much the same thing. Try to get your body down to parallel and barely hover that glute onto the chair, and then really drive up with the glutes and the hamstrings. So use this as an opportunity to really focus on that posterior line. Feel it through your heels. Feel that push with the glute. Once again, one more time. I'm keeping that core nice and engaged. Trying to keep that straight line as though I did with a pole. And we're barely touching my weight down. I'm not really putting my weight down on the chair. It's just a reference point. You might want to start with something a little bit higher if this is uncomfortable, and trying to feel that push and drive through the glutes there, if you have this available. If not, the pole works just fine. And then the last thing I was going to show you, depending on your availability as well, but they both achieve the same thing. I would prefer, if you have a band, to use it. If you don't, I can let you borrow one for a while. But we're going to do some monster walks. And if we don't have the availability for that, I'm going to show you how to do some partial pistols. But we're trying to create a little more stability on the side here. So getting an appropriate strength band, resistance band, what we're going to do is put it around our feet, like the exit over to provide resistance, and we're going to keep it nice and upright here. I'm going to spread my feet into a hip width position. I'm going to go into a mostly squatted position. From here, going to perform very slow walks to the side. I'm keeping the tension taut on the band the entire time I'm doing this. I'm not allowing it to slack. So to show you what not to do, it would be to do this and then just let it slack in and not continuously provide tension. So the name of the game with this one is trying to maintain the tension the entire time. And you can challenge yourself. So I like to do some backwards walking, some forwards walking, keeping the core nice and tense, and then side to side walks. This is going to cook you real fast. Similarly, if you don't have that availability, we can almost perform the same amount of work if on the wall. Like I said, I would prefer the band just because you can get a little more bang for your buck. You can load up a lot more muscle structure. But similarly, we can do this as well. So we're going to want to perform partial pistol squats. And what we're looking for here, once again, first thing is balance. Second thing is we want to go to a point where we feel the knees start to go inwards. So right there for me is where I'm going to stop. So I want to go just to that point where my knee's going to start to bend in. And you can do this a lot more slow and controlled than I'm showing you. And I would at first start with more slow and controlled because that just provides for more stability. So you're probably going to find one side's a little harder than the other to do. And that's okay. We're working on a balance here. So for me, it's going to be my right leg. And you don't want to, once again, you don't want to feel that screw in of the knee as you're performing this. You want to try to keep it straight. And if you get to that point where it is screwing in, that's where you want to stop just above that. Okay, that should do it for now.